Some hikes are just trails on a map, but others feel like walking through a legend. The Mestia to Ushguli trek isn't only about distance. It's about stepping into Georgia's wildest mountains, where each valley hides stories, and every step carries you deeper into Svaneti's heart. I walked it in 4 days, and this is what it felt like. Day 1. Mestia to Zhabeshi. The morning I left Mestia, the village was just waking up. Smoke curled out of chimneys, cows wandered lazily through the streets, and above it all, Mount Shkhara gleamed under the first light. The trail started gently, winding past farms and rivers. Soon, I was walking through quiet forests where sunlight spilled through the leaves. It wasn't long before I was climbing, heart beating faster, stopping every so often to look back. And there was Mestia, getting smaller and smaller below me. By mid-afternoon, I reached Zhabeshi, a cluster of stone houses tucked into a green valley. My guest house was simple but warm. Dinner was homemade bread, cheese, and stew served by a Svan family who barely spoke English, but whose hospitality spoke louder than words. That night, as I listened to cowbells echoing across the hills, I realized this trek wasn't just about hiking. It was about stepping into another rhythm of life. Day 2. Zhabeshi to Adishi. Day 2 felt tougher. The trail climbed steadily, weaving through pine forests and eventually up towards the slopes of Ckhunderi. The ski lifts stood still and silent, like relics out of season. From there, the path narrowed, and every turn revealed something new. Waterfalls tumbling down cliffs, meadows sprinkled with wildflowers, and the occasional shepherd guiding his animals along the same trail. Adishi appeared suddenly, almost hidden in the folds of the mountains. At 2,040 meters, it felt remote, isolated, like a place time forgot. Wooden houses leaned against each other, and Svan towers pierced the skyline. The village only got electricity a few years ago, and in many ways, it still feels medieval. The guest house was rustic, creaky wooden floors, a stove for warmth, and hearty plates of potato stew. That night, with no phone signal, I felt both cut off and completely present. It was just me, the mountains, and the silence. Day 3. Adishi to Iprali. This was the big one, the hardest and most unforgettable day of the trek. It started with the Adishi River. By morning, the current was already strong, icy water rushing down from the glacier. Crossing it on foot would have been dangerous, so I hired a horse. The river splashed against its legs, and I clung to the saddle, trying not to imagine being swept away. On the far side, the real climb began. The trail zigzagged up the slopes, higher and higher, until breath came short and legs burned. But at the top of Chkhunderi Pass, the world opened wide. Glaciers spilled down like frozen rivers. Jagged peaks stood like guardians, and the valley stretched endlessly below. It was raw, wild, and overwhelming. The descent tested my knees, but the thought of reaching Iprali kept me going. As I dropped into the valley, I passed shepherds' huts and fields glowing in the late sun. By the time I reached the village, I was exhausted, the kind of tired that makes every bite of food taste incredible. At dinner, I sat with trekkers from around the world, each of us with the same look, tired, sore, but deeply content. Day 4. Iprali to Ushguli. The final day felt like a victory lap. The trail meandered through meadows and forests, the climbs gentler, the descents easier. Villages appeared and disappeared, each with its own towers and stone houses. And then, after hours of walking, Ushguli appeared on the horizon. The highest inhabited village in Europe, guarded by Mount Shkhara, Georgia's tallest peak. The towers stood like sentinels, weathered by centuries but still unbroken. Walking into Ushguli was like walking into a living museum. Children played in the streets, pigs wandered freely, and villagers still lived as their ancestors had for generations. I dropped my pack, sat down in the grass, and just watched the sun dip behind the peaks. For days, 57 kilometers, countless memories. This trek wasn't easy, but it was real. A journey through landscapes and culture that felt ancient and untouched. If you're looking for more than just a hike, if you want a journey that challenges you, humbles you, and rewards you with raw beauty, Mestia to Ushguli is it? It's a story written in sweat, laughter, and silence. And it's one I'll carry with me forever,